Hi. I hope you had a nice lunch today. Hopefully I'll have a nice presentation so you wake up after good food. And food was great, especially the sweets. So, as mentioned, my name is Dario. I'm a co-founder of Coinify. We are a crypto funding platform based in Mountain View, California. And I'm going to talk about decentralized economy and the role of Coinify in it. And I think I'm a bit fortunate because many of the previous speakers talked about all of the issues I'm going to talk about. So I'm going to definitely use them as an example for some of my main points. So what is decentralized economy? What does that represent? What that could represent? Basically, when I think about decentralized economy, I mostly think about decentralized applications. Projects like Lazuz, we saw that maybe an hour ago, 2 hours ago. This is what I think is the real force which will change the world for the better. Bitcoin as a currency, as a money substitute is one thing, and it's an exciting thing. It allows people to send and receive Bitcoins in a smooth way. But the underlying protocol, Bitcoin protocol with a capital B, is something that interests me. It's basically this distributed asset ledger technology. This is what I think holds a greater promise and a greater potential than the Bitcoin as a money substitute. That's my opinion, at least. So Lazuz represents one of these very new attempts to utilize decentralized applications or blockchain technology to solve real-life problems like transportation, for example. And I think this concept, this idea, is the one that's going to be immensely profitable, much more than just seeing a Bitcoin as a money substitute. That's my opinion, at least. So I personally am not that excited about exchanges or payment methods, etc. They are important. They need to be improved. But I think the real kind of a tsunami of technological progress will happen with these applications, which, if successful, will be incredibly powerful. So talk a little bit about decentralized application, what these things are. It's a basically distributed application. It's a peer-to-peer network. Lazuz is an example of that. And if successful, it could displace companies or the concept of company as we know it. And some of the industries could be entirely changed by these new applications. So you have a basically predetermined business model that, theoretically speaking, should run on its own. You have a communal ownership. You have these tokens, or you basically have the code that you can use. And it's not easy to do right, by the way. This is a new industry, and we kind of can see right now certain basic elements that need to happen for it to be successful. You have to have a user incentives done in the right way. That's probably the most important one. Then there's a kind of a step that's developed over time. You have a crowd sale, concept of a crowd sale, which does two things. It validates the concept, and it seeds the community of users. And theoretically speaking, all these projects have a high growth potential, which is, crowd sale will be comparable to seed stage in a venture capital cycle. And the market should be liquid for these tokens. They should be exchangeable. And of course, people would be able to purchase any amount of tokens that they want to. So far, we had several crowd sales, Storage, MadeSafe, and Ethereum being one of the well-known ones. I think David Johnson this morning mentioned that Ethereum is kind of a gold standard as far as the legal framework is concerned. For example, I personally like what Storage is doing. Storage is basically a decentralized version of a Dropbox. If you think about the storage as an industry, it's a $150 billion industry. I think later today we're going to have a presentation from Zenit, which is another local to Israel company. Their goal is to do decentralized computing or supercomputing applications. That industry is even bigger than storage. It's like 500 billion plus. So let's say that both of these or one of these companies becomes successful. Theoretically speaking, they could be multi-billion-dollar propositions. And these are the examples that I think are really exciting. This is where the money will be in the future. Of course, you cannot decentralize everything. I mean, some things are easier to decentralize than others. You have to have certain elements in place. It has to be kind of susceptible to being commodified in a way. So industries such as storage, computing, bandwidth, transportation to a certain extent, banking definitely, insurance definitely, could be decentralized. And all of these industries share something. They're huge. They're gigantic industries. And all of them could be dramatically altered by utilization of blockchain technologies. Now, one of the problems right now in our community is that these decentralized applications, it's such an early stage still. I like to say it's like after Big Bang, you know, you have this immense creativity, you have a lot of heat, you have a lot of excitement. But I think in order to be able to displace Dropbox or some other serious players like that, you need to, whoever the team is, whoever the company, whatever the company is, they need to adopt certain practices and procedures and have access to capital, which will enable them to effectively combat these established players. So basically, as it is done now, you have as a first step, you have a white paper, which is kind of a business plan. Then you try to generate hype and excitement, you rally community. Then you do a crowd sale. Then that kind of validates whether or not you have enough of traction in the community. And then we haven't seen, as of now, the stages after that. This is kind of still uncharted territory. It's basically unknown territory. For example, how to figure out the concept that I call token economy. I think Lazuz had several slides on this, and I think the main point is to say it's immensely complex yet, very complex, and we don't have, as of now, examples of it that we can truly analyze and figure out the dynamics that govern such economies. So it's a little bit unknown, it's a little bit unproven still. We can apply some of the existing concepts to it, theoretically speaking, money quantity theory, and you can kind of have these types of equations. But the point is we still don't have a big enough of a sample to have a meaningful theoretical framework that would help us understand this. So we need to do it as soon as possible. We need to think about it. We need to implement it, and we need to see what happens. And as I mentioned, because it's still such an early stage, I think it's important to talk about some of the basic concepts. I live and work in Silicon Valley, and Israel is also a high-tech hub. So we have a precedent, startups, years and decades of experience. And basically, when you think about a startup or a promise of any new technology, you still have to look at some of the kind of old-fashioned elements. And first one, and still the most important, even if you have the greatest idea in the world, if you don't have a team that can execute it, it's more or less worthless. So team, who are the people involved with these decentralized applications? How committed are they? How long are they willing to fight this battle? And it is a battle. Any company, any new concept, there's a lot of struggles. So you need to have a certain number of people willing to do it. And in our community, because this concept of decentralization has this connotation of like, well, we can all do it together. It's decentralized, community can do it. I would slightly disagree with that. I think you still have to have a core team of a decent size that will craft these decentralized applications, manage them to a certain extent, and guide the development. And I think they need to be good, they need to be numerous, And they need to be paid too. They need to have salaries. So it's not just out of their goodwill. They also have some sort of monetary incentives to ensure that they stay. And then this token economy, to have a right model is even on this theoretical stage, it's still important to have a right set of incentives. So for example, you could do a crowd sale. You could say to people, hey, if you buy tokens now, maybe later on your tokens as a product, you'll be able to purchase more services, etc. And then network effect. For any of these decentralized applications to become meaningful, you need to have a large number of users. And that is very problematic because this is one of the most difficult things to do. I mean, I can give you an example. I don't know, 15 years ago or so, Amazon felt threatened by eBay, and Amazon at that time had much more money than eBay, and they just wanted to crush them, you know. And they actually, I think, even had a better team and more money, but they couldn't displace eBay because eBay had already kind of a community in place, had network effect happening, and Amazon just lost hundreds of millions of dollars trying to displace them. And it's still a little bit of a mysterious kind of a process as to how one can create a community of a decent size for any of the projects. And in a decentralized application ecosystem, you absolutely need to have that community. So how you get there, it's very, very important, and I think can be very expensive too, because you have to still do marketing, you have to do community development, you have to incentivize these users, and for that you need money, I think. And of course, I think this morning, briefly, several panelists talked about the legal frameworks. So what is this token? How does one see tokens? I think it's a crucial question. I've been dealing with attorneys because we're based in the United States. The United States has a harsh and very aggressive agency, so you have to deal with them in a proper way because punishments are severe. I mean, for some of these violations, you can go to jail. It's not laid back like Canada or Australia or some other countries. So that brings that question of having a proper legal framework in place even before you do some of the things. So having a law firm or two is absolutely crucial. And we have a legal advisors, we have a law firm. We constantly making sure that whatever we do is legal. And I think we as a community, we need to do more of that and kind of go away from some of the anarcho views that most of us held maybe a couple of years ago. And so Coinify, we want to solve some of these problems that I mentioned. We want to be AngelList for decentralized applications, kind of a well-respected place where you can connect decentralized applications with the wider world, users, potential investors down the road, and community at large. In order to do that, we want to set a gold standard. We want to have high-quality decentralized applications on our platform, which we will do a due diligence on. We'll help them figure out the fair token economy, fair pricing, and have the best in-class experience on the Coinify platform and as far as the crowd sales are concerned. And have a kind of a liquidity that would make sense for decentralized applications to position themselves on our platform. And right now, we are not charging any money. So that's another attempt of ours to generate enough traction. And I think I'm finished right on time. If you're more interested to learn about Coinify, please contact me in my email address. Thank you.